Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to Hurricane Helene, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Like yesterday, I first, really, because in the UK, it's not really being covered. And the video that I watched, basically they said that there's been there's been about 10 to 15 losses of life. Whereas now, like in this video, apparently it's over 100. Like, did this happen overnight? Like that it jumped up that much? Or is it because I'm guessing that the video I watched yesterday was mainly about Florida? So that fatality rate was just, contained within Florida. Whereas this, maybe it's the entire portion of the US that's been affected by this. It's insane, man. I know it's hurricane season, but it feels like this one is particularly bad. Like, was there anything that could have been done, to prevent and minimize these losses? Because obviously the loss of life is horrible, but the property damage, everything else, the loss of power, it's got to be making everything so much worse, and it's going to be so expensive. But yeah, over 100 is crazy.
Good evening and welcome. These are desperate hours in the storm zone tonight. Now 4 days after making landfall in Florida, the aftermath of Hurricane Helene still inflicting maximum pain on communities in North Carolina and Tennessee. Many still cut off from power, running water, and communications. The death toll still rising. By an NBC News count, 121 people are now confirmed dead, as a grim search is carried out for the many still unaccounted for. Much of the destruction centered on the city of Asheville. A Charlotte councilman volunteering in the Lake Lure Chimney Rock area, posting these horrific images, what he could only describe as a post-apocalyptic landscape. So much left unrecognizable after the region was pummeled by floods, washing homes and neighborhoods away. Families short of so many things and beginning to grow short on patience, too. George Solis is in North Carolina for us tonight. George, how is the recovery going?
Lester, recovery efforts are ongoing, certainly not making things any easier.
Is that somebody's car? Oh,
rain officials telling us they have received thousands of calls, but they prioritized 150 trying to get to those people that are elderly and medically dependent. Tonight, Hurricane Helene has moved on, but left in its wake a trail of death and destruction. Officials in North Carolina say they were blinded by Helene's sheer intensity. Homes swept away, restaurants and shops torn to pieces, communities cut off from clean water and electricity, leaving residents nowhere to go.
Shelters are at capacity. Those shelters only provide overnight lodging, food, and water. FEMA is not at these locations. This is basic necessities only.
Asheville, among the hardest hit, tonight remains large.
God, look at the amount of water. How are they going to get rid of this water? Like, do they just have to wait for it to kind of move on, or are they going to get some pumps in there? Because yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about this.
Cut off from relief, frustrating residents.
Nobody's going to help us. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do.
Do you have any faith in the federal response here?
No.
Where's the government?
No.
Ricky and Devonna Brown's auto shop has been in this location for 30 years.
This is devastating. I mean, this is hard to see it. I mean, this is hard to come and look at. You know what I mean? This is your whole life right here. And it's this old building to somebody, but to us, this is our life.
Drop-off of communication has left relatives of missing locals pleading with officials for information on their loved ones. What do you say to the residents who feel that the local and federal response wasn't fast enough following this storm?
So first, people are working around the clock. What we want to tell people is that more help is on the way and help is continuing.
In North Carolina,
Yeah, but should it have taken this long? Like, I mean, that Florida and that region, hurricanes affect that region regularly every year. So you should have, emergency power on standby. Maybe I'm just looking for someone to blame, but why are they still without power? Like, still?
Single county has been impacted. The western part of the state by catastrophic flooding, the eastern half by heavy rains and tornadoes.
Do you have the manpower right now to handle this response?
So this is a multi-federal agency response, which is why we're bringing in people from across the federal government.
FEMA says they'll deploy 1,200 first responders to the state to support relief efforts, Relief that can't come soon enough for towns like Boone, 2 hours north of Asheville, where mudslides rip through neighborhoods. 100 miles south, the river in Henderson County reached 30 feet.
Oh my God.
Smashing all previous flood records. Rivers and lakes jam with debris.
Man, oh man, look at all this debris. This is all like people's houses and stuff. Just been reduced to like, you know, bits of wood.
Back in Asheville, residents don't know where to even begin.
It's a lot of work, destroyed a lot of things that I loved, of course, and my business and my job and my livelihood and all that. So, you know, I don't know.
And George, what is the status of the communications right now in Asheville?
Lester, conditions are only slowly starting to improve. There is better service here, and word tonight from the White House that the president will be in North Carolina on Wednesday. Lester?
All right, George Solis, thank you. In neighboring Tennessee, an agonizing wait for so many who have yet to hear from missing loved ones, and harrowing stories of those who made it to safety and those who did not. Priscilla Thompson is there. Priscilla, what challenges are crews facing now in this search effort?
Well,
God, look at all the stuff behind her.
Sir, the challenge here is massive debris piles like this one as the search for the missing intensifies.
How many people are missing?
Tonight, the floodwaters in Tennessee have receded, but the pain is still flowing for some families.
They are just desperate to find out where she is, if she's been found. They just want news.
Rosa Andrade and Monica Hernandez Corona are among the 150 people still unaccounted for in Tennessee, officials say, after 3 agonizing days. Authorities say more than 100 responders are scouring debris, as today efforts shifted from rescues to recovery. They confirm only 3 storm-related deaths in the state so far.
They used everything they had to save life that day. Some were saved. We're still searching for some. We all have hopes that we will find some more alive.
Relatives say Rosa and Monica were working at Impact Plastics factory when the water began to rise, and that they got into the back of a semi-truck trying to escape. A man who says he was also on that truck posted this video online, showing water rushing by as cars and yellow pipes floated away.
Their family members were in the back of an 18-wheeler holding onto pipes, calling 911 for help, and that help didn't come.
In a statement, Impact Plastics says when the parking lot and service road began to flood, employees were dismissed, but that some remained, boarding a neighboring company's truck as the flooding intensified.
Man, where do you even go? Like, when there's flooding this bad, like, I guess you just try and get as high up as you can, you know? Maybe, like, if there's a building that has really high floors, that's what I would do, I guess. But what's the proper protocol?
That truck tipped over, Impact Plastics says.
No.
5 people were rescued by helicopter, but 6 others were never found. We are devastated by the tragic loss of great employees, the company wrote. Loss made all the more painful by the wait for answers.
They are really grieving, and all that they really want is closure. They just want closure for their families.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News, Irwin, Tennessee.
This disaster is already having an impact on the presidential campaign, with former President Trump on the ground in the storm zone in Georgia, while Vice President Harris just spoke at FEMA headquarters in Washington. Garrett Hake now has that part of the story for us.
Tonight, former President Trump visiting the storm zone in Valdosta, Georgia, coming with Franklin Graham's aid group, bringing trucks loaded with supplies and fuel.
We're here today to stand in complete solidarity with the people of Georgia.
And hammering Vice President Harris for not being there herself.
Of course, the Vice President, she's out someplace campaigning, looking for money.
The quality of the federal storm response could have a major political impact on the...
I don't know. I feel like things like this shouldn't become political battlegrounds, you know? It should just be about finding the people, really, and just hoping that the number of fatalities doesn't get higher.
Vice President, who's hoping to repeat President Biden's narrow 2020 Georgia win. Harris was briefed aboard Air Force Two, cutting campaigning short in Las Vegas to return to Washington, meeting with FEMA officials tonight.
We will do everything in our power to help communities respond and recover. I plan to be on the ground as soon as possible, but as soon as possible without disrupting any emergency response operations.
Trump also accusing the White House and Democratic governor in hard-hit North Carolina of, quote, going out of their way to not help people in Republican areas without providing evidence.
What was that in reference to?
Governor Kemp did call.
Just take a look.
Where's that
Mr.
coming
Trump.
from?
Biden did call
Do you have
Governor
any
Kemp
evidence for that,
yesterday.
Mr. President?
It comes as the candidates' running mates prepare to meet for the first time at tomorrow night's debate, after largely going after the person at the top of the other ticket.
Ah, so they're debating. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They do not share our values. Look, it's not even about policies. It's about sharing our values.
Man, what a nightmare the American southern border is, thanks to Kamala Harris.
That Category 4 storm making landfall back on Thursday night in Florida's Big Bend region, packing 140-mile-per-hour sustained winds. North Carolina has been hit with catastrophic flooding. At least 600 people are still unaccounted for in that state alone.
600.
More than 2.1 million people without power all across the region. And as ABC's Rena Roy reports, many people are struggling with basic needs.
Man.
Pieces of debris, wood, trees, traffic, and power lines tangled in Asheville, North
Wow, look at this car, man. It's massive.
Carolina. The area decimated after Hurricane Helene slammed the southeast. Hundreds of people unaccounted for. Members of the National Guard and relief teams from 19 states joining forces on search and rescue missions.
This is apocalyptic for the entire region.
From the air, an unbelievable scene of debris floating in a river. Homes, boats, docks. A road over the water blocked by more debris. Homes and towns submerged underwater.
When you turn the corner and you see your community just full of buildings and trash and floating boathouses and floating homes, it just...
God, honestly, maybe, would it be better if the houses and buildings in this area were made from brick? Because brick, I suppose, it's not as easily destroyed by water compared to wood. I don't know, just an idea. What do you guys think?
It sort of takes your breath away, and it was scary.
There's probably 50 trees blocking my neighbor from coming out. I started helping them yesterday. The neighbors at the other end of the road, we got us out, but the other neighbors are trapped.
Western North Carolina dealt with a separate rain system just before Helene hit. The hurricane dumping up to 30 additional inches of rain in parts of the state. ABC's Faith Abube is in Asheville.
We're in historic Biltmore Village, an area that's popular for dining and shopping here in Asheville, which was submerged in water. You can see the debris just around me here. And the floodwaters were so strong that they were able to carry this commercial fridge from who knows where.
The Painter family returning home to 35,000 gallons of water in their basement.
We're stepping on mud and trying not to fall because it's so thick and slippery.
In Tennessee, officials in Union County say more than 70 people are still unaccounted for there.
We're not leaving until the job is done. I also want you to know, I'm committed to traveling to the impacted areas as soon as possible. My first responsibility is to get all the help needed to those impacted areas.
So many roads closed, especially in North Carolina, cutting communities off from critical supplies like clean water to drink. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Man, is enough money going into these areas? Like, this is the question. Like, is enough funding? Because money, that will pay for pumps, generators, food, clean water, etc., etc.
And Florida also working to recover from the damage done when Helene made landfall there. There have been 11 confirmed deaths in that state, 9 of whom drowned in their homes during a mandatory evacuation area near St. Petersburg. Taylor County, where the storm officially made landfall, was also hit by Hurricane Idalia last year. Governor Ron DeSantis expressing relief at the lack of fatalities there, noting the storm surge reached over 15 feet.
This is going to be a massive effort. The state's collaborating with county emergency management partners to open recovery shelters throughout the impacted area so you can be connected to resources and assistant teams to assist with finding solutions to any barriers that may exist. We're also working now with the Department of Emergency Management, and they are working to provide travel trailers for people to live while on their properties.
More than 100,000 people in Florida still remain without power.
Why? I don't know. Like, is this normal for power to be out for multiple days? I know that, these kind of natural disasters will affect power, but for power to be gone since the weekend, since Saturday or Friday. I don't know. Is it poor infrastructure, or is it just there's nothing that could be done?
Meanwhile, in Georgia, more than 500,000 also without power this midday. Places like Valdosta hit especially hard. Governor Brian Kemp addressing the loss of life there as well.
This storm literally spared no one. It took one of our finest and a firefighter, Leon Davis, who was with the Blackshear Fire Department Assistant Chief while responding to a call. As you all know, in this community, a 27-year-old mother and her 1-month-old twin boys were killed when a tree fell on their home in McDuffie County. In Washington County, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl died when a tree fell on their burning house.
The director of the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency said that crews were focused on opening routes to hospitals and making sure supplies can be delivered to damaged communities. And the TVA announcing back on Saturday that they are moving about 500,000 gallons of water per second down the river at the Chickamauga Dam. That is
okay, so they are pumping, as much water as they can. Yeah, they just got to get rid of the water, haven't they? Because then you can start to see, what's underneath it.
It's meant to mitigate floodwaters from counties all across Tennessee and bordering states. News Channel 9's Meg Doyle now with that story.
How are you coping if you're in, any of these states, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia? How are you coping? You okay?
As you can see behind me, TVA is opening up the Chickamauga Dam and plenty of other dams across the state of Tennessee in anticipation of water headed our way from North Carolina.
After Hurricane Helene, we have seen upwards of 19 inches or more of rain up in northeast Tennessee. And all that water right now is being stored in our tributary dams up there, but it needs to move somewhere, and that means it's all coming here through Chattanooga.
Scott Fiedler, a TVA spokesperson, said TVA is moving 500,000 gallons of water a second at the Chickamauga Dam.
We need to regain all of that flood storage because there are multiple systems in the Gulf right now, and we need to get ready and prepared to get that water just in case Mother Nature throws it our way.
Fiedler also said that TVA may increase the amount of water being released in the coming weeks. So those planning to be on or near the Tennessee River need to be cautious.
There's going to be high flows. You're going to see a lot of debris in the river as it washes down. So be very careful out on boats when you're out and about on the river or even on the shoreline.
Honestly, man, if I was there, I wouldn't be by the river. Not until this thing blows over. It's just not worth the risk.
VA prepares for hurricane season months in advance.
Unless, obviously, you have to for work, I suppose.
We've got to be prepared for events like this in September and October because we know a hurricane is going to show up.
And opening the spillway gates at the dam has another added benefit.
That's one way where we can help regulate flows through the dam. We're also generating hydroelectric power. So with this rainfall comes an opportunity to also generate hydroelectric power.
In Chattanooga, Meg Doyle, News Channel 9.
Wow. Yeah, it's less. It's much less. Man, I just hope that, the rescue services, FEMA, gets as many boots on the ground as possible, get as much assistance as required, food, water, get people out of there. Hopefully, the missing people, I think they said there's 150 missing still. Find those people alive, hopefully. And I think the government, whatever they can to minimize this damage in future has to be done. If it's going to cost money, spend that money, because money's, is going to a lot of places, that maybe that some of that could be diverted into things like this. I'm not saying that they've not done everything they can. They might have, but I don't know. I think to be without power for this long, get some emergency generators in there. Fly them in. Where there's a will, there's a way. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoy my videos, please help me out by liking and subscribing.